Hello and Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to this webinar. There is no secret that we are talking about the importance of foreign languages as we have already posted the brochure on our Facebook page. You must be thinking that where is Omar Khan, your favorite host? Actually, he is with us, but now he is playing the role of Big Boss. He's behind the screen, he's guiding us. So bear with me. I am Najam Sohrawardy, a working journalist and alumni of Greenwich University, and a guy who has a lot of interest in literature, language, and poetry. So today I am conducting this session, this webinar for you all guys to talk about why should we learn foreign languages. Like for example, we live in Pakistan, so for so many people, Urdu is our first language, or Sindhi, or Punjabi, or Balochi. But when we learn English, this is our second language because English is in our environment, it's in our textbooks, it is the official language of Pakistan. But when we speak of foreign language, so what are those languages what that we call foreign languages for us? So to talk about this topic and to know the importance of foreign languages, we have four guests on our panel today. So the first guest we have is Mr. Burhan Javed Sadiq. He has a very interesting portfolio. He is a writer and development consultant with the United Nations and the World Bank Group in the South Asia and Middle East regions. Welcome to the show, Mr. Burhan. Besides, we have Dr. Annie Ali. She is a researcher at Shanghai International Studies University and an assistant professor at Greenwich University. We are also joined by Miss Maria Paula. She is co-founder of Family Educational Services Foundation and faculty for Italian language at Greenwich University. And the last but not the least, Dr. Saida Dawood. She is Dean Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities at Greenwich University. So, welcome to the show. And I must appreciate all the people who are watching this show and taking some time out. And you will hopefully learn a lot from our today's webinar. So, I start with a quote. It is, a proverb which is very famous in Czech Republic. It goes as you live a new life for every language you speak. If you know only one language, you live only once. So, ciao, ahlan wasalan marhaba, and so many languages we know how to greet. Recently, I learned Hindi, and these days I am learning Arabic. But I will start with Mr. Burhan Javed Sadiq to know that why should we learn a foreign language. And since we have a lot of students as in our webinar today, so I just want to speak their heart out. When I was a student, I would think I have so many assignments, so many exams with me. So why should I take out some time and learn a foreign language when I can already speak English? I can write it. So what are your thoughts about it?
Well, first of all, Najim, extremely gratified to be in your company. I sink in humility sitting before you. Thank you so much for having me here. I would start. There's a very simple answer to your question. I can end this in three, four lines, but I'd rather just to explain and emphasize the point. I would instead take a slightly indirect route and then take a tread on a slightly indirect path and then get to your question. And while I do this labor, inadvertently I'll end up answering your question. So I hope I have the liberty of doing that. Um, the thing is that language is a very powerful medium. Language, they are pillars of wisdom. They're deep founts of knowledge. Basically, it's an outlet of the human imagination. It's the way it's the only way a human being can express himself. Um, the thing I've always, and I think most people, most academics, or I don't consider myself an intellectual, but most intellectuals, they consider language as as a very vital form of art. And what happens is that I would compare this form, this expression, this form of art with science. and then in somewhere in that comparison, you'll find a good answer. uh, in science, what happens is that, you're out there, you just have to observe, the stratosphere, the atmosphere, the planetary motions. A scientist does what it does is, you observe the plants, you observe medicine, you observe you study animals. So what happens is that you are you're not creating anything. What you're doing is you're just observing and listing down your observations. You are not trying to recreate through the power of your wit and imagination. It's already there for you to observe. It's just you just have to rely on the power of your observation. But in language, or any form of art, language being a very vital source of art, uh, you're basically creating things. You're creating things that don't really exist. For example, you might even imagine planets. Writers do that all the time in contemporary and fiction. And you look at Harry Potter. These
Yeah.
are things that you don't see, and you just created these things. You create a new world in your mind, new characters, new situations, new countries, new planets, aliens. So there's no limit to. That's why I rate the power of art, or languages, as you know on a certain pedestal. uh, that's why, when you've achieved that level of perfection, that's sublimity, that's your gateway, that's your pass to different cultures.
Yeah.
You see, there are around 7,000 languages in the world, and all these languages are unique in their own respect. You have, every language has its own cadences. Every language has its own twists, has its own vocabulary, has its own structure, has its own sounds. So it's not just you get introduced to a new culture, to a new way of life, to new technologies, new histories, to new disciplines. It's not just it doesn't just open doors to economic opportunities.
Yeah.
It's just, it broadens your sense of horizon, it broadens your intellect. That's why learning a new language is of vital
Yeah.
importance.
Yeah,
I
so
hope
that's so powerful. And it reminds me of my time at Ganesh when I was a student there. I learned French as a foreign language, and when I went to London to do my LLM studies, so there I met a French guy who wanted to read Quran. He was a new Muslim. So when I taught him Quran, it was so helpful for me to teach him because I knew the basics of French and I knew the problems he would have to read Arabic. So sometimes we learn a language not because of an economic perspective, because of a personal reason, and it helps us a lot. So I would recommend all the students who are watching this show that Greenwich University is offering some foreign languages like German, Italian, Arabic, and especially Urdu for diplomats. So you can avail this opportunity and you can enroll with us. And for our students and alumni, we are offering 50% off. So if I were a student, I would again, learn a new language with you. So I come to Dr. Saida Dawood. You deal with a lot of students on a daily basis. So how do you convince them, to learn a foreign language in these times when social media has actually, made our language so pathetic that we don't know our native language, we don't know English properly. So how do you convince a student to go for a new language that he does not know at all?
Assalamu alaikum to everybody. I would, I mean, uh, your question is very valid, and that in current situations, students even don't know their own mother language very well, and how to convince them for foreign language. But as you know, the student of today is very well informed and very well connected also, and languages open a door towards the new world, towards the new opportunities. And when you know a language, you feel very comfortable uh, dealing with other people around the world. English is okay, English is enough, but at times you need to connect with people. Learning another language is like, I mean, as you said, living another life. And as I experienced that a language is not only a mode of communication, but it also opens the doors of opportunities for people in other parts of the world. And you feel an attachment to those people, those culture,
Yeah.
and those, I mean, places about which you know. And rightly said, as Umar, as Najam also mentioned, that you feel very comfortable while you are I mean, communicating with people who know the same language in foreign when you are abroad. So about German, I would like to say that Germany is very well known about facilitating the foreign students, and it's very well known for its development in technology and advancement in economy. So to know a language or to know German, instance, is I mean, providing the students another opportunity, opening another door towards the world for them. So I would very much recommend any language, be it German or
Hmm.
French or Italian. It is just another door for another opportunity for you.
Yeah.
So don't miss any opportunity of learning anything, be it a language or any other discipline. And so this is the best opportunity for students also right now. So since the university is also offering a discount, so it's I would recommend my students, especially the Ganesh students, to join us. So you didn't mention that I also am an instructor of German language at Ganesh University, and we are starting next week, inshallah.
Yeah, I saved it for the next question, but you have since told the audience that's fine. Because my next question is to Dr. Annie Ali. Recently, what happened? I was covering Karachi Festival at Beach Luxury Hotel, and what I saw there, some diplomats in Karachi from the UK, from Italy, they were speaking Urdu, some sentences, some words, and whenever they said a few words in Urdu, there was cheering in the crowd, so big round of applause. So it's very powerful when you speak a language of the native people. So if I ask you about Chinese language, Mandarin especially, there is a CPEC project going on in Pakistan, and as a journalist, I know there are so many opportunities coming for the people of Pakistan due to that project. So what would you say about the people who want to learn Chinese at this juncture of the history, and how can they benefit it from in the future?
Yes, first of all, assalamu alaikum, good evening, and ni hao, everyone, whoever watching, to our audiences. And you are right, you mentioned the CPEC project. So out of the 6 corridors of Belt and Road Initiative of China, CPEC project is one of the important flagship project. So it is not only China-Pakistan economic cooperation relationship. It is China, Pakistan is also emphasizing the cultural and language exchanges, cooperations. So after with the arrival of the CPEC project, I assumed that in Pakistan there is a trend and a fashion to learn Chinese language. So I realized, I assumed, that in Karachi, in Pakistan, many private and both government institutions, they are giving emphasis to Chinese language, and there's a fashion to learn more students learning Chinese language, and millions of Pakistani people expecting better, excellent job opportunities with the CPEC project. So let me just emphasize you why learning Chinese language in the relevance of the CPEC project is important is because not only CPEC project is providing that platform for economic cooperation, it is also China and Pakistan all together promoting their cultural and language exchanges. So both in China, Chinese students learning Urdu and institutions promoting it. Besides in Pakistan, I see that the learning Chinese language is far greater scale. So what I give an example of the opportunities for Chinese students who are learning Chinese languages, that it is, for example, in the tourism industry, for example, Chinese people with their after of poverty and development and increase in their salary, many Chinese people tend to travel around the world. So in that sense, Pakistan has always been an attractive place to visit. So when accommodating those Chinese tourists, Pakistan should have the platform and brochures which should be available in Chinese language. So it is opportunity to work there. And besides that, whoever has good command of Chinese language can search out the business partner, trade partners, and can do better business than not knowing the Chinese language.
Yeah, yeah. So true, because China is the emerging economy, and the scale of the business that China offers to other countries, it's enormous, and Pakistanis can exploit a lot of opportunities if we know the language. I know personally people who go to China and do the business, and when you know the language, so you have the opportunity to put your idea, to
Yes,
pitch your
you
ideas,
have
and yeah,
yes, if you can speak Chinese. Yes, because not so many Chinese can speak good English. So
yeah.
compared to Pakistani English, Chinese people's English is very basic level and not fluent to do business. So I recommend better Pakistani people should learn Chinese language.
No, but I would like to disagree with you. But you are speaking fabulously. You speak very fluently. And I have had friends in London who were Chinese, and who were very well read in English. But yeah, of course, we need to learn this language so we can have people to people contact with the Chinese people. And so, like, if we move from China to Europe, and I asked Miss Maria Paula that European countries offer a lot of research opportunities and scholarship programs to students in Pakistan. And I personally know people who have got those scholarship programs and research opportunities. So how much does it help for a student if he knows like Italian or French? So does it make a difference for a candidate who knows a foreign language or European language and a person who does not know it, Miss Maria?
Definitely, definitely. If you know at least the rudiments of the language, you will have much better experience when you visit a country. Even whether you go there for study or you go for business, at least you have a more personal contact with the people. Like you were saying before, Najam, when when you know a little bit of somebody's language, it really makes a difference in your relation with them. So I would say it's very important to know the language. Maybe you get also you're going to be like, if you go there for studies, for example, like you were saying, there are many opportunities. There's universities all over in Europe that accept Pakistani students, but in Italy it's even I would say is much easier for a Pakistani to go study there, because the culture is very similar. Italians are very family oriented. They like to sit around and have a chat and eat together. And the background, the culture is quite similar in many ways. For them, it's very important, the family and friendship and things like that. So I would say that also there are many in university that have courses in English. I also have a friend whose granddaughter, she went to study to Italy with the Erasmus, which I don't know if all the students are aware of that. So you can explore those possibilities too, because there is also open doors to do this type of exchanges. But if you know Italian, if you know a little bit of the language, then you're much ahead, because you can you can learn much quicker whatever you have around. So the basic grammar, the basic greetings, the basic things that you get in a language course, it will be very useful. That's I wanted to say that too. Plus, I would say Italy and Italian culture, if you have a bit of background of learning some about the Italian European culture, you're much more comfortable when you are sitting with people that are cultured, because you will know what they're talking about, you will have something to add in the conversation. And Italy is very rich with art and history and everything. And of course, when you learn Italian culture and Italian language, you also learn some more about European culture in general, which is very, very useful at any point.
Yeah, so true. I had this opportunity this year to go to Italy twice, and I just loved that place. And the next scholarship I want for me is in Italy, of course. So yeah, one day I will learn Italian. So my next question is to Mr. Burhan. That you must be meeting with so many people because of your work nature. So you also look into Middle Eastern regions. So how does it help us improve our worldview? Like if we have talked about economic opportunities and business and from the perspective of the students, if we just try to make it a little philosophical, that how does language changes or improves your worldview of the other nation?
Worldview in the sense of what?
Worldview in the sense of culture, in the sense of their traits. Like for example, we have so many prejudice about different nations. So does
Yeah,
it help
exactly.
us when we know the language
I'll
to
answer
build
that.
credibility?
Just taking a leap from what Maria said. Say, for example, a Norwegian comes to Pakistan
Hmm.
and he tries to, or he interacts with me in Punjabi. So I would be, I would be extremely comfortable, and I would treat him in the same way as I would treat another Punjabi. So language is that powerful. In those terms, yes, it does alter your worldview. You're able to, if you're talking to somebody in the same way. For example, there are many misconceptions about Pakistan, that it's a
Yeah.
very extremist state. There are certain sections in our society, certain sheeps that which has led to this sobriquet that we've earned, that it's a terrorist state. But if we are able to converse in, for example, go to France, and if we are able to sitting in a coffee shop and conversing in French, or going to Italy, Florence, or Rome, sitting with a Roman and trying to have a conversation in the same language, for example, and not just in the same language. If you know the literature, what's the best way of
Yeah.
learning the language? It's by learning literature. You can't learn a language if you don't learn the literature. I can't learn English if I haven't read Charles Dickens or Shakespeare. I was very young when my father introduced me to, I was 6, 7 years old when he introduced me to Rudyard Kipling, or I was totally bowled over. I mean, I've been reading English poetry since I was very, very young. And as I grew older, the brain got a little mature. I started reading Shakespeare. So what happens is that when you enter that culture, you other than the way we look, it's really not different. When I was studying in England, I've spent a lot of time there. I have so many friends over there. When I go there, I spend quality time with them. It's really the level of connection is so powerful. It feels as if we grew up together. It's because of English.
Hmm.
So it's the worldview you speak of. I will also answer that by telling you that Jhumpa Lahiri, a very well-known Indian writer, who until recently was writing in English, but I think for the past 7, 8 years or 10 years, she was learning Latin. So what happened was that she started writing in Italian. So recently, she's written a book in Italian now, and she says that the best way to learn about any culture, the street culture, the family life, the nitty gritties of a society, is to learn the literature of that society. So she's now written a book after having studied that language so well, so prolifically in the past 7, 8 years, that she's now produced a book, and she's getting glorious reviews in Italy, and she's getting, she's making TV appearances in Italy. So yes, the best way to learn a language, and the best way to change the worldview of how you perceive another nation or how they perceive you, is to read. Unfortunately, the main reason behind the declension of our intellect of this modern generation is that they've stopped reading, and a big I would say a big culprit here is the social media.
Yeah.
We've not used it correctly.
Yeah, exactly. And you remind me of Jeffrey Williams, who says that you cannot learn one language until you know many. So definitely, when you know many languages, you have so many metaphors. You have so many ways to say a similar thing in so many ways. So, like, if I come back to Dr. Saida Dawood, and I saved your introduction of teaching German for this very specific question, that Germany is offering a lot of opportunities to Pakistani students, and I saw a lot of Pakistani students when I went to Germany. So we have Goethe Institute here, and you are also teaching German language. So what's difference between the colloquial German language and the literature part that Burhan was talking about? So can a person learn German language if he only reads the book, or does he has to look on the street how do Germans speak the language?
It's a good question, Najam. If you learn German in Goethe Institute in Pakistan, for example, that is for the basic use. I mean, if you want to go to Germany and want to communicate initially with the people over there. But if you are in Germany and you know the basic, then definitely you want to go for the depth, for the literature, for the poetry and all those things, which are obviously very interesting, and they give you a deep view. Language and literature of a language is the soft face of a nation.
Yeah.
You learn many things while reading poetry or literature. So even if we read the older books, I mean centuries back, then we come to know the culture of that time, the way of talking of that time. If you study, for example, Shakespeare, the language is very different. And if we study today English or German, in fact, any language, it has been modernized. I mean, it is different. So to learn the cultures deeply and history also, we have to know the language in depth, and for that we have to be in that country, to interact with people on the street, to look into their, I mean, everyday matters, how they deal it, how they speak, how they express. And that is how we learn in things, I mean, practically. So learning from distance, I mean, learning in Pakistan from Goethe Institute or online, in fact, is very different, of course, than going to Germany or to any other country to learn the language. And very well said by Mr. Sadiq also, that language has a historical perspective also.
Yeah.
If you learn one language, it is not enough. I mean, and learning many languages makes you more richer. I mean, in the sense of vocabulary or thinking and cultural knowledge about other countries. So, as we know that all the European languages have the base of Roman or Latin, and the vocabulary is very similar. Like German and French have similar vocabulary. Only the accent is different. About 26 vocabulary or alphabets, I would say, are similarly pronounced, and about 27% of their vocabulary is similar to French. So, and I'm sure Italian and Spanish have the same, I mean, relevance with German or English. So, if you know English, you obviously, and as you know French and Italian also, then you can make out the words in other languages also. So, I mean, somehow you can connect and you can have the base of that. So, and also, as Mr. Sadiq said, that in science we have to discover. Natural science, we
Yeah.
discover things. But in a language, we develop a language. And you can see that from the ancient time on, from the Roman era, the languages have developed in many different forms, as Spanish, as French, as German, Italian, in all other languages also. So they have the same roots, but they have developed gradually. While developing, the nation, I mean, those people, for example, German people have put their input in the language while developing, introducing new words, introducing new terminologies. And with the change of time, many things are included in the language. Like you know about Urdu. Urdu is our other national language of Pakistan.
Yeah.
But if we study Urdu, then we know that today's Urdu is very different. It has
Yeah.
incorporated many different words from different languages. So this
Yeah.
is development of a language. So this is part of the procedure. So as your question was that what is the difference between learning German in Germany and learning German language in a different country is
Yeah.
a bit different. Yes.
But yeah, that's a part of the procedure, and you have to start it from somewhere. And then if you want to learn German or you want to learn a foreign language, you can start from Greenwich University. And
Of course.
the School of Linguistics at Greenwich University is doing a fabulous work. The videos are there, the online classes are there in the age of this
Yeah.
coronavirus. And hopefully we will, we will pass through this time and we will be there physically in the classes. So what happened when today in the morning I watched a video of Miss Maria on the Greenwich University Facebook page, and she was talking about Italian language that is so simple that if you know the script, you can read it. So I just went to the Google and I just tried to learn the counting from 1 to 10. So if you allow me saying this, that uno, due, tre,
Very
quattro,
nice.
cinque, sei, sette, otto, nove, 10. Am I right?
Bravo! Bravissimo!
Okay. So that's
is
great.
it
Now
that
you
is
can read it, right? You can read it and you can say it. So, well, that's an advantage of Italian language too. Actually, I was going to say that there are many words that in English that come from Latin. So, if you learn Italian, you can understand the difficult words of the English language, the one that only the people that have studied understand. So that opens so much more to you, not just to understand the different culture, like the Italian culture, but also to understand even more of the English language.
so like if I come to your class, so Miss Maria, so would it be easy for me? How much time would I take to learn Italian?
It depends also on you, but of
Look,
course, right?
I memorize from 1 to 10 just in a day.
So that will be easy because you have an interest in it, so you learn it very fast. Because I will teach you also the tricks to learn it fast.
Yeah, and hopefully, I hope the students who are watching us, they will also develop interest in Italian language and other languages that we are offering at Greenwich University. Dr. Sayeeda Daud, you were saying something. Sorry, I interrupted you. I was
yes, Najim, I would like to say to Maria that I'm thinking of taking admission in Italian language, Maria.
Oh, you should. That is very nice.
And another thing, Najim, I want to add that language is not only, a form of expression. It also reveals the history of a nation. And it is, historically, if we look at different languages, how they spread, for example, English and French, and German is the third most spoken language. We come to know that those nations who have been world power in the past, like British colonial power, French colonial power, and even the other, states who have been world power, they have introduced their languages in different parts of their colonial occupations. Like the English have introduced English culture, the language, the English laws, the English form of education, and they have also introduced democracy, the form of governance. So this is one advantage of language which you introduce to another part of world. You not only teach the people to speak that language, but to also introduce and promote your culture, way of life, way of thinking, and promote your systems. So, as you know, everybody knows that in all those parts which have been ruled by Britain, everybody is speaking English. They understand English very well, their culture, their literature, and even the form of governance is also adopted. That is a very positive sign also, because something, I mean, has been introduced, which is beneficial for the world. Also, the French rule parts, they've learned French and all the, those things which French people have taught them. So it is the advantage. It has been the advantage of the big powers to introduce their culture, their language, and their system. Even the Muslim rulers, when they went to Spain, as Maria was talking about the culture and background and some sort of similarities between Pakistanis or the Asians and the Muslims and the Italian people. That era was which was the Muslim era in Spain, has introduced the culture of Islamic world and the knowledge which was transferred from the Greek towards the Muslims through the after the Roman Empire's decline, and then it was carried to Spain, and from Spain it spread to all the European countries, and historically it is, I mean, proven, and all the libraries and all the cultural
Yeah.
venues are in Spain. So we can, it is very obvious that a culture, a language, even a religion is spread by a language. By a language, but the mode of spreading, I mean, a common or small state or small nation cannot spread its language or culture or system. It has to be very powerful, like the Roman Empire, like the Greek Empire, like the British
Yeah.
Empire. Let's say. So this is the form. We were talking about the Chinese language earlier. So the time has changed now. When the Britishers were, I mean, at their peak, nobody was very much aware of the cultural, richness of China. Although China is a very, very old, dynasty, and it has its own culture and all. But it was because China had not had any exposure to the Western world, so it couldn't. Exhibit all those things. Now China has become an emerging economic power, and everybody is looking towards China, and it is the need of every nation who wants to have any relationship with China. Of course, China, we have to have some sort of connection with China, be it economic, be it social, be it cultural. So that's why the importance of Chinese language has grown so much in such a short time. CPEC is an opportunity for Pakistan, and we are learning the language to
Yeah.
understand. I mean,
Dr. Dr.
China.
Anili talked about, yeah, CPEC. So like Miss Maria has already got two students, me and Dr. Dawood. But if I talk about Chinese, so there is, this misconception or prejudice about Chinese, Dr. Anili, that it's a very difficult language. So many people have talking about it. So
Yes,
what's
yes,
your
that's
take
what
on
I
it?
want to explain now. Since Dr. Saida and others were mentioned about the Roman and Latin rooted languages, so same linguistic family languages, but Chinese is completely different. It is among the foreign students, Chinese language is said like if other foreign languages is like other country, but Chinese is like other planet. It is so completely different. And I've seen that Pakistani students have so much interest and so much desire to learn, speak Chinese language, and learn, know about Chinese culture and people, how they live, how they do job and come out of poverty so in short time. Only in a decade Chinese economy and development boosted. So Chinese, this mindset for foreign students that Chinese language is very difficult, because of that it is nothing like other similar rooted similar linguistic languages. Because if I listen to English, Italian, German, or French, I can understand or guess some words. I pick up because there are many English words in those languages, Italian, German, and French. So using my English, I can guess. Even when I listen to Urdu, I can guess what those people are talking. I can guess. But if Chinese people are talking, the foreign students, foreign people cannot guess what they are talking, because even the country name, we say different. We say United States, Guo. Germany, we call the Guo. So you can't even guess your country name in Chinese. You can't even have idea you are those Chinese are talking about me. And Pakistan, we call Bajisitan in Chinese. So my students were laughing. Oh, teacher, Baji in Urdu means sister. So why you are calling us sister country like that? So Bajisitan like that. So in that vocabulary and pronunciation sense, it is very alien to listen at the first time. But if we teach the Pakistani students the basics, and if they understand the logics of the language and the character. The second difficult thing foreign students find very difficult is that the character. So it is in English called character, but those are not the symbols. Those are not the letters. So it is in Chinese we call hanzi. So it is drawing letters, literally translating. So it is that the syllables, which every character has different meanings. So it is syllabic language. So students take that very difficult, because they just once they see the character, it seems like the drawing to them. So for the first time, when I show these students to the foreigners the characters, they assume it is hard to draw that. But it is not like that. The writing character and the pronouncing the Chinese words, it is a system, very well defined system. And if we make the Pakistani students especially understand the logics and the system, then they can easily learn. And about the Pakistani students, why they can't learn or willing to learn that Chinese language easily, is because that they think it is, that because of their mindset, that just that they understood it is very difficult. So just the basics. I'm teaching at here Greenwich University. I am very satisfied with my Pakistani students, because they passed the elementary Chinese course very well. So I am inviting more students who are interested with Chinese culture and Chinese language. And since worldwide understand Chinese language is very difficult, so whoever possessed the Chinese language skill, that person becomes unique. So I always tell my students, if you possess this level or above elementary level, so it would be a unique impression for employers if you have Chinese language skill on your CV.
Yeah, of course, everything is difficult in the beginning, and once you go through the process of learning blocks, you can learn any language, because God has blessed you with a brain, with some kind of powers that only humans have in among all the creatures, that we can speak languages, we can give meaning to sounds that we produce. So if I ask Mr. Burhan Sadiq Javed Sadiq a
Yes, it is
question that,
human
yeah,
creation, and learning language is also being a human. Yes, I agree with
yeah,
you.
Mr. Burhan was talking about it. You started learning English language from the very young age, because your father introduced this language to you. So, what advice would you give to our students, how they can improve their vocabulary? How can they memorize new words? Because this is a question that has been asked in the audience.
Say it's really not there's no rocket science to it. There's a very simple formula of learning a language. you read as many quality books, as much quality literature as you can. There's no formula of memorizing. There's no really point in memorizing words.
Yeah.
It will just inadvertently flow out of you without you even knowing it. So you all you have to do is just read quality literature. I started reading at a very young age. I read from Charles Dickens to Oscar Wilde to William Wordsworth to John Milton to Dryden. So I mean, you name it, I've at least read some of them, some of their works. But I've read a host of different authors, and so I'm familiar with different styles of writing. So there's no really. What happens is that a human brain is a very powerful and a very at the same time very very funny organ. Without you knowing it, these words will flow like a river. I think
Yeah.
there's a quote by Virginia Woolf that addresses your question more directly, and she said that all you have to do is just read as many books as you can, and the words will flow out of your pen like a great river. So there's
Wow.
no formula. All you have to do is just read as much as you can and read quality literature. Don't read bad literature. That's also very important.
That's important. Yeah.
Just one more.
Yeah. Sorry.
I just wanted to. I think somebody talked about Chinese, the language as a possibly a prospective global lingua franca. I have a. If you go back in history, you're going to go back 5,000-10,000 years, or as back in history as far back as you can. The Chinese civilization has always been very powerful and advanced. They've always have these dynasties and kingdoms, but they've never really much like the French or the British or other European colonies, they've never really taken their language and culture to distant shores. They've been a very sequestered and quiet and peaceful power. But what I'm no prophet. I don't know there's always a first. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. There might be a time when it rises to a level where it has no choice but to take its language to other, to distant, far-flung areas.
Yeah, but now it's very important for us to go to China and explore what's going on there, because they are the future and they are the present at the same time. So like my question to Miss Maria is that we are talking about vocabulary learning, and as the Bible says that in the beginning there were words. So for any student of language, in the beginning there are only words that make no sense for them, but there then comes a time when we can understand sentences and even when we can write. So what advice do you have for the students who have a very short concentration span due to this means that we have been talking about social media, that even the students cannot read 1 or 2 pages, let alone reading so many books. So what advice do you have for them to increase their concentration span while they are learning a foreign language?
Well, I want to ask you a question. Do you
Yep.
know who has the least concentration span?
Donald Trump.
No. Somebody even less than that. A baby. A baby can only concentrate for a fraction of a second on something, because once he's seen it, he's learned it, and he wants to do the next thing. Some of you are parents, you know, if you have brothers and sisters. So they always, but the baby learned the language just easily. So how can that be? It's just been exposed to the language, I guess. So the media now actually it's an advantage, because it helps you to learn a language in a fun and easy way. So at the same time, I understand that maybe in Pakistan there are not many people that speak Italian, but there are many resources available to you, like songs, movies, even on Netflix. There is a lot of series in Italian with subtitles, English or Italian of your choice. So there is. I know my students, they bring me sometimes songs. One of them, they brought this Bella Ciao, which
Yeah, that's my favorite song. I love that song.
It's an Italian song that has become famous in every language. All over the world they sing Bella Ciao, from South America to now even in Pakistan, because this series is so famous. So there are many ways to learn a language, even if your attention span is short. Actually, it's not an obstacle. Of course, languages is not something that you have to concentrate and strive and everything. But if you have an interest, then you are looking for things that are fun and they help you to learn just the same.
Yeah, you know
I
this
think
song.
Dr. Rani would agree with me, and Dr. Saida, you probably agree with me too, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
this song is so powerful. When I was doing my thesis, I really read about Italian history just because of this song, and you know how they fought wars with Germans. So this is so moving. Sorry, Doctor Saida Dawood, you were saying something.
Yeah, I was just want to say that Maria has mentioned that a baby, if a baby is capable of learning just from hearing his or her mother's voice, a language, then we grown-ups, we can do it much easily.
Yeah,
But when I think that when there's a will, there's always a way. Annie also mentioned that the characters of Chinese are hard to learn in this. But if we need something, if we want to do it,
yeah,
if we need, so we will find a way, and we are always find a way. Like when English was introduced in the subcontinent, we were the people of this area. They were only familiar with Urdu, Arabic, or Sanskrit. So they had a will, they had a need, so they learned English and all the Western languages. So it is not difficult to
yeah,
learn a language if we have a will, we want to. So we should not be, I mean, we should not hesitate to take a start. I mean, reading is a good thing. But I did when I was learning English, and later on when I was learning German also. I at that time I took a dictionary in my hand and read part of of the newspaper, and those words which were difficult, I just looked them. In the dictionary, and then I came to know that all the words are being repeated constantly. If
yeah.
you know 10 or 12 or 15 words, then you can make out the sentence
Hmm.
in the paragraph. So it's not difficult.
Yeah, we are running out of time, but one last question that somebody has posted for Dr. Ali. I just read it. Is it true watching entertainment based content in a language one wants to learn can help in building vocabulary and pronunciation? Your take, Dr. Ali?
You mean in Chinese language?
Yeah, in Chinese or in any language, if we watch entertainment based content like Netflix, like if I start watching Chinese movies on Netflix, so can I improve my language skills, my pronunciations?
Yes, of course, because the earlier mentioned that child gets listening, and then later on starts speaking. So it is watching Chinese, listening to music or watching some movies. It is also helpful to listen, and when you catch up the words, you can pronounce it out. So it is helpful. Yes.
You
I
were
think
saying something else.
it might be helpful in pronunciation. So I mean, if you're watching an Italian show, it might help. But if you really want to expand your vocabulary, reading is the first
Yeah.
option.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
reading
agree.
is the first and the last option, exactly. And all the students, all the people who are watching this show, the message is that you should read a lot, your own read in your own language, read in English language, and read in the language that you are about to learn as a foreign language. And for that, you can contact us at Greenwich University. You can see our email address, contact number, our website is available on the screen, or else you can contact us via email or Facebook page. So it was a great pleasure to have such so good people on our panel, and it was very insightful and simultaneously intriguing session. I really enjoyed it, and I hope so that this session will move me learn a new foreign language near in the future. Thank you so much. And the next show that we will have on our Greenwich page will be of Umar Khan, so don't miss that. Thank you so much, everybody. Signing off.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Arrivederci, ciao, bye bye, Holafis.
Auf
And
Wiedersehen. Auf
Bella,
Wiedersehen.
yeah.
Auf Wiedersehen.